All right, so this week we're talking about introduction to flipped learning. I was very excited to be doing stuff on flipped learning because it's a topic that I've done a lot of in the past. I've seen it both positive and negative. I've seen it used really well, and I've also seen it used not well at all. So I have a little bit of insight in both those sides, and a little bit of reasons why it didn't work when it was tried. So things you can look for to change moving forward. But as I've mentioned previously, I've used flipped learning in my pre-calc classes. I've also used it in geometry, which is the bad time that I saw it used. But one of the places I really want to start using it is in my statistics class. So a lot of the assignments in this class I'm going to tailor to talking about how I can use it in my statistics class. So what I already understand. Obviously, with flipped learning, use a lot of different videos or a lot of outside read-ins for the class. They do that outside of class. So all the content, or most of the content, is delivered outside of class time, which really frees up class time to dive into the materials and for the students to engage with it. One of the big proponents, of course, for flipped learning is Khan Academy, especially in the high school math course. Khan Academy came out beginning of the millennium year, I guess, 2000s. And it's come a long ways. There's a lot of videos you can have students watch on it. Plus, you can have students do a lot of practice examples that are on the site as well. So definitely Khan Academy is a great resource. I'd definitely use it with flipped learning. I'd use his videos, but I'd also record my own videos to give the students two different views of the same material, which definitely is helpful for students to get both perspectives of the material. So as I said, I already use it in my pre-calc class. I use what's called the Harkness Method, which is it's not exactly the flipped learning, but it's very much in line with it, I would say. The students do the work at home, and then they come into class, and that's where they have classroom discussions about the problems, and they explain their solutions and how they got to where they got, or why they couldn't get any further. So it's a very inquiry-based learning, which is a big proponent or a big part of the flipped classroom is the idea of being inquiry-based, where students are leading the learning as opposed to being force-fed. One of the big parts of pre-calc and of inquiry-based learning and of flipped learning in general is this idea that asking questions is a really positive thing, which is one of the articles I read was about how to encompass or add a lot of questions, or how to get students to ask questions and how to get them to ask good questions and how to build that question and strategy for the students. So one of the questions we had to answer this week, how do you create opportunities for your learners to have learning driven by their personal interests? So three courses I teach, or the three main courses I teach, are statistics, calculus, and pre-calculus. And I'm really fortunate that each of these have built-in spaces where I can have the learning driven by the student's personal interests. Statistics. We do a lot of projects in that class. We start right out with having them collect data, and we collect data throughout the year in a bunch of different times, and we have them use it in different ways, depending on what we're looking at the time. So at the beginning of the year, they collect data just to get an idea of how to collect data and the different methods and the different types of data. Further on, they'll collect data again, and then they'll discuss more of the data itself, and they'll talk about using hypotheses testing with that data and looking at regression lines and stuff. But anytime they're collecting data, I don't tell them what type of data they have to collect. So they have an opportunity there to figure out what type of data they want and really tailor that to their own personal interests. I've had students do lots of different data collection, whether it's are double stuffed Oreos actually double stuffed, to how many students when they leave the parking lot allow people to cut in front of them, all the way to do people stop at stop before turning right on a red light. So I've had a lot of students collect different data, and it's always tailored to their personal interests. In calculus, one of the first things I like to do is talk to them about what their future careers are going to look like, what they're interested in, because calculus is a senior level course, and then look at what type of math is used in that career. So what type of math will they need to know? Even if it's not calculus, it's still an important thing for them to know what type of math that they really need to be fluent in. And then in pre-calculus class, I said the students are doing the problems at home. They come in and discuss them. And when we get to different sections of the year, I like to have the students reflect back on the types of problems we've done and write their own problems. Sometimes I tell them, write the hardest type of problem you think you could solve. Other times I have them write problems on these topics. So I give them a chance to write their own problems and then submit those, and then I'll distribute them out to the class for them to work on as well. So I try to get the students involved in that learning. So flipped learning, how can I help in my classroom? Obviously, I mean, with the high school math course, flipped learning is something that I'm very interested in because it does increase the class time. It frees up a lot of class time so that instead of lecturing, you have that time to have students working on examples, working on problems, and practicing. So you can do more individualized learning because after they've watched the videos and they're in your classroom, then you can see where their issues are and you can help them. So you can target your learning to the students' questions. So you have students submit questions. After they submit questions, you can then tailor your lesson or your section there on answering those questions. And also using Khan Academy properly. One of the articles that I read was about improper use of Khan Academy, which just in general, the improper use of flipped learning. So one of the things is more than 20% of class time online. So Sal Khan says that it shouldn't be more than 20%, right? So a lot of people, when they do flip learning, they do a lot of online, and it ends up being a lot of the class time is online, which isn't what it should be. It should be the students interacting with each other. So that was one of the big things about improper use of it. Having a math lab and a regular class. So in the article I read, this class had two different math blocks in the day, a math lab and a regular class. The math lab, they said they used online 100% on Khan Academy, watching videos and doing the practice examples. And then the regular class was just lecturing on the same topic. And when I read that, I was like, wow, this is incredibly stupid. Why would you do this? This is not how to get students interested in math at all. So definitely not doing something like that. A lot of times when I was reading about it is that people aren't using the data that Khan Academy has. So Khan Academy has the ability to collect a lot of data on your students, so have them sign into their own accounts and then link those accounts to yours. And then you can use that data to help individualize the learning. And basically, if you're not using the data, you can't be individualizing the learning, having everybody work on the same exact problems, the same exact videos, no differentiation whatsoever. So those are some problems that one of the articles I read talked about with Khan Academy, and I see those problems just being general flipped learning problems, right? Yes, you can have the students watch the video at the beginning of class, your short video you've made, and have them take notes on it, but don't have the whole class be that, because then you're just lecturing again, just as a video instead. Not using any of the data you collect, right? You can collect a lot of data using flipped learning, so collect it and use it appropriately. So as I mentioned at the very beginning, I'd love to be able to add this, and I'm going to be looking at adding this into my stats course. So at the beginning of the year, obviously, we have to start with what is data. So one of the first lesson goals, or the goals at the very beginning, is students being able to identify the difference between numerical and categorical variables or data. And then knowing that if it's numerical, it can be either continuous or discrete. And then if it's categorical, it can either be ordinal or cardinal. So I would love to be able to make a stats lesson on this, and this is what I was looking at creating here. So my students are high school students. It's an elective course. Being an elective course, of course, means that I don't have to worry as much about students who aren't interested in it in the class. So most of the students in the class are very interested in statistics and in upper level math. We have 50-minute courses, and we meet, or 50-minute classes, and we meet 4 times a week. So that's the course I'm looking at creating this lesson for. So the flipped lesson video, record my own video, a short video, a one-take video on the different types of data, how each of the data types can be used, and just a brief overview of statistics and data collection. In class, the very beginning of the class, have the students watch the video, and then as we're watching the video, I'd pause it intermediately and talk about the different important topics and how to take notes on this. So because this is the beginning of the year, I wouldn't assume that they know how to take notes on watching videos. So that's definitely one of the things I would be teaching them as we're going. So this lesson here, the content itself, I think, is relatively easy for the students to be able to understand. So because of that, I'd be able to use this lesson to help also teach them how to learn in a flipped classroom, how to watch the video, take notes, rewind the video if needed, replay it, and get the information they need from it. And then I have students find different statistics online, in newspapers, in magazines, and label them as numerical, categorical, and explain why is this numerical, why is this categorical, why did they collect numerical data in this instance, why did they collect categorical, could they have changed it? Here they collected numerical, could they have collected categorical, and what would that mean in context of the data or the statistics we're looking at here? So that's definitely something looking forward to having students do, especially at the beginning of the year, provided, of course, we are back at school. And one of the other big things I'd like to do is get students questioning. So one of the other articles I read was all about this idea of questioning, having students ask questions in order to help further their education. So I like to think that my classroom already is very positive to question asking, and students aren't afraid to ask them. But one of the things that the article suggested was after the students do the read-in or the video quiz or the video, have a short quiz to direct their learning. Have 3 to 4 questions, and always have the last question to get students asking questions. And he said, instead of having the question, do you have any questions about the material in this section, which most students will answer with no, instead ask one question about material in this section, because now you're forcing the student to actually ask a question, to think about the material and formulate the idea of, well, what didn't I understand? What is the most confusing aspect of this material? And then ask a question related to that. So that's definitely one of the things I do. In these quizzes here, you can have students do it the day before, so then you can go over those questions and then incorporate them into your lesson, which is what the article was suggesting, and that's something that I would do in my classroom. So those are the couple different things I looked at right there, the 2 different articles, plus of course Kuro's book there. Definitely flipped learning, I think is going to be very exciting. I can't wait to introduce it into my stats class as much as I do in my other courses.